Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts, Hare and Forbes Machinery House, and Pace Farm. Well, it's not every day of the week that you get to feature a backyard legend. A legend that specialises in Ford, side valve, flathead V8s. And you're about to meet the man on this week's Classic Restos.
I have to rebuild that Ford flathead. I need to put oversized pistons. I have a lot to do today. I have 13 parts, 14, 15, 16. Pretty well every morning I'm up early, and the first thing I do is put the kettle on and make my cup of tea. I have a look out the window. It's another great day. You have to start the day right, and at my stage of life, the little things can mean so much. Some of these little things are actually big things. One of these big things is going straight up to my shed. This is my shed. This is where I rebuild engines, gearboxes, diffs, carburetors, distributors, brakes, whatever, on any sort of car. But mainly I do my engines in here. I know it looks a mess, but I love it. There's bearings, there's timing gears, there's all sorts of stuff in here. Oil, oxy, everything here that I need. There's valve facer over there, valve seat cutters, and die grinders for honing out and enlarging the intake ports and exhausts on side valve Ford V8s. I built this shed back in, it would have been about 68, and the shed's been here since then, and it's been really good because it's strong and solid, and you can lift an engine up on the beams, and no, it's been really good. I've got my room in here to, to build engines and gearboxes. Yeah, the shed means a lot to me. There's a lot of money's worth of parts in here, and I'd be lost without it, there's no doubt. It's just wonderful to be able to come up when you're retired and come up and have something to keep you occupied. That's the main thing, and keep the mind ticking over. I was born in 1940, January 1940, and I can remember when I was 2 years old, because Dad was working and the truck was working 24 hours a day, and I can remember sitting on Mum's knee and we could see all this smoke and flames, and we'd get in here and the malt house was alight. It was really a big fire because it catches alight every now and again. Yeah. But I can remember that as plain as day. Yeah. I started my apprenticeship in 1955, at the Ford dealership in Bowral, Archie Heaton. And I was there for 5 years, the apprenticeship then, and he was a really good chap to work for. But I can remember side valve Ford trucks and cars and utes and A models. Actually, I went to work in an A model ute for quite some time because the spare parts chap had an A model ute, and we used to go to work in it of a morning and come home of an afternoon. And that's when I was able to buy my first car. Was in, that'd be 58. I bought a console, and of course, being a bit of a, what would you say, a performance man, I whipped the head off, had a bit shaved off it, and away we went. But it was a good little car, yeah. Young boys or young men today have got to have something to keep them occupied in. And there's no doubt to have a shed that you can play around, even if it's not mechanical, if it's for woodwork or something like that, or, you know, something to do with a car or upholstery or even spray painting. You know, it's marvellous to have somewhere to do all that stuff. It's so important. Yeah.
We've always had a few cars. They're all special. The T-Bird.
Oh, that's mine.
The Combi for when we want to get away. The XR8.
It's going to be a classic.
They're all insured with Shannons,
We've also got Shannons home and contents cover.
which helps protect our automotive collectibles, tools and memorabilia in the home and garage. If you're motoring enthusiasts like us, it's got to be.
Shannons.
Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
If you have a restoration project, Hare and Forbes has the tools that you need. Shrinker stretchers, dollies, mallets, bead rollers, profile gauges, professional panel restoration kits, and so much more. Now I warn you, enter at your own risk because you will end up buying something. So come along to your Cap City store or browse and buy online at machineryhouse.com.au because Hare and Forbes has the range.
When you strip an engine down, it's not a bad idea to take some photos if you can't remember where things go, and inspect everything when you pull them down. Put all your nuts and bolts in containers, mark them if you have to. The main thing with engines is check them for cracks where you can, if there's any cracks visible, or rubbish in the water jackets. That's a very important factor because if the water jackets are very dirty, you will not run any engine cold. So what I do is clean them as best you can with high pressure and kerosene and all that sort of stuff. And with the water jackets, if they've got a lot of rubbish in, I make it so the head face is flat and the water pump and all the Welsh plugs are in place, and then I put an acid in the water jackets. I leave it there for one and a half days and then high pressure it out, and the same with if it's a V8 with both sides. But have a scratch around with number 8 wire or any screwdriver, whatever you can get to try and get that stuff out of the water jackets, because sometimes you still get sand casting out of them, you know, and you've got to get rid of all that sort of stuff out of them. But then it's a good idea then to have the block acid dipped and high pressure water jet check it for cracks, any cracks or broken studs or bad threads, have those all fixed if the block's okay, and then you can measure it all up and see what size that you're going to have to machine it to, and then if you've got a good machine shop handy, take it to them and explain what you want done. If you're going to hot the engine up though, say a side valve Ford, and you want to get the maximum out of it, you can die grind the ports and clean them all up and shape them, put oversized intake valves in. If you'd like to go that way, from 1.5 inch, go to 5/8 inch. It does make a big difference. You can also relieve the block, especially from the cylinder to the bore to the intake valves. You can radius those out, make them nice and smooth, and then if you're happy with that, you can spend a lot of time at it. But then you can, if you're going to shave the heads, make sure the heads are good. You can put aftermarket heads on whatever you can get hold of, Edelbrock or Offenhauser, you know, and aluminium heads, they certainly cut the weight down, but they're a better cooling head that you can use, and it does help the engines to perform, there's no doubt. When I finished my apprenticeship, after 5 years, I went to work for the family, and of course they had Ford trucks, side valve Fords. I learnt to drive on a 52 side valve Ford tipper, and then progressed to a 60 model. That's with a Y block. But back in the days of side valve Fords, gee, they worked hard, and we drove the tripe out of them. You know, we thought they were race cars. And when we were on contract, Shire work and that, you know, there was always a heap of trucks on there. But at the end of the day, the old Ford used to be 1 or 2 loads in front of all the other trucks. And, you know, they talk about overheating. You know, we never had a lot of overheating with them, and they worked hard in the hot weather. And I think if you keep the water clean and a good radiator cap on them, you know, but the side valve Ford was a mighty work engine. You've only got to look at what they did through the early years. They were cars, trucks, boats, army stuff. They were in tanks and Brent gun carriers, and they were stationary engines on searchlights and welders, compressors. I did have a drive of a Brent gun carrier. It was unbelievable to have a drive of one of those with a side valve Ford in it and the truck 4-speed box in. It was quite an experience, it was, yeah. I've got a couple of side valve Fords there at the moment. I'm only just, the little painted one is just engine reconditioned, and the other one there is for a hot engine, going to be overboard, and the bigger valves put in it, going to have a bit of a cam, a Wade 150 grind we found is a terrific cam for them. With the hot engine, you can get a scat crank, scat rods, and a good set of pistons, and you know, and you can put steel main bearing caps on, because they do, once you start pushing them hard, 5,500 revs, they will break main bearing caps. But you can get steel main bearing caps today and good bolts, and you know, you can get you a couple hundred horsepower out of them. Good. Over the years I've built a lot of engines, you know, not only side valve Fords, but a couple of straight A Buicks, Austin Healey 6, MGs, a couple of Jeep. I did a couple of Jeeps, restored a couple of Jeeps, and a little 4-cylinder side valve. But I get a lot of fun out of hearing them. You know, an engine when they first start up, and listen to that throb of the side valve Ford V8. There's just nothing like it, yeah.
I spend a lot of time out here. The RT Charger's the real deal, an E49. Remember A-Charger? I've always got projects on the go, so Shannon's laid-up cover helps protect my restorations. I'm Mopar through and through. It's a passion Shannon's understands. I wouldn't insure my cars and bikes with anyone else.
Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
And if you own a classic bike, a classic car or a classic truck, it just has to be insured with the best. Why not pick up the phone and give Shannons a call for a quote and a chat on 134646. And if you are really enjoying these episodes of Classic Restos, keep in mind there are over 320 of them awaiting you on the Shannons Club, along with a whole heap of other really cool stuff as well. For more information, go and visit shannons.com.au. Hare & Forbes Machinery House has been family owned and operated for over 85 years, and it's easy to see why. Planning on welding? Look at these welding tables and clamps, air compressors and different air tools, sandblasting cabinets, through to spray guns. Everyone is welcome at Machinery House. There are competitive freight rates around Australia, and you can buy online at machineryhouse.com.au. So remember, Hare & Forbes has the range.
Yes, we've talked about a lot of things this morning, but I'd just like to say I love my cars. Being a Ford man, I was born with Ford on my forehead, a steering wheel and a spanner. And, you know, my first car was a Consul. I was 17, so of course we hotted it up. Then I bought a 105E Anglia, which was a wonderful little car. We raced it, we hill climbed it, we standard quartered it. It was such a great little machine. My next car was a 60 Falcon, the first one to come into Mittagong. Light blue it was, CEL066. And you know, it was a great little car. We had that car for 9 years. I got married, we went on our honeymoon in it to Queensland and back, and it was really a good little car. The next car I bought was a XT, Fairmont Gear with a 302 in it. And the brother wanted to go to a wedding, so I lent it to him, and he had it wasn't his fault, had a bad accident and didn't do it much good. So I bought a XW GT, a red XW GT Falcon. Then I went and bought an XA GT, which was a white with a black vinyl top. It was second hand, only had 5,500 miles on it. Oh, it was a XD, XF V8, and then EA, then ED, EB, BA. It was a turbocharged 6-cylinder turbo, and then I finally bought an FG, which was a turbocharged car too. A 39 I got registered in 76. It's been a wonderful car. We've been to Ayers Rock and Tasmania 2 times. We towed a caravan to Ayers Rock, and you know, we've just been everywhere in it. We went to Queensland about 5 times, South Australia, Victoria. It's been wonderful. Side valve Ford V8, 3-speed box, and the Ford diff. Brakes were good on it, of course, being hydraulic, and it was really a top car. I did an engine, a hot engine for a race car, a Ford Special, for a bloke in Bowral. And the SoCal came up for sale, and he said, "You've got to get that car. It's a side valve Ford V8 and it'd suit you." And believe it or not, when I was 10-year-old, Dad used to take us to all these race meetings in the Ute, Nara, Catalina, Mount Druitt, Bathurst, and believe it, when I was 10 in 1950, the SoCal was up there, not knowing that in 1997 I'd be able to buy it. And of course we bought the SoCal, did a fair bit of work to it, got it going real good, and we raced it. After selling the 39, I said to Sandra, I said, "What are we gonna do now? Will we get a Mustang or what?" Anyway, I said, "What about every Tom, Dick and Harry's got a Mustang? What about we get a Capri?" Because the young brother Cam used to race a Capri at Bathurst, and they were a great little car in their day. So I had a mate who lived in Tasmania, and he knew of a chap over there, had a Capri, and he wanted to sell it. So I said, "When you go to Tasmania to the Targa at Tassie, have a look at it for me and see what you reckon." Anyway, he had a look at it, he said, "Yeah, it's a good little car." So he hopped on the plane on Wednesday. The chap picked us up at the airport. We went to his house at Scottsdale, bought the car, and we drove it to Devonport, ready to get on the boat. Yeah, and we hopped on the boat. We drove it home on the Saturday, and it went well, and I've done a fair bit of work to it since we got it back. The engine in the Capri is the 3-litre V6. Yes, the Capri is no doubt. It's a lovely little car. It rides nice, it goes well, and we just love it, Sandra and I. And you know, the car movement has been so good to our family. The children have loved it, being able to ride around in a vintage car and all that sort of stuff, but it's been terrific. We certainly love it. The 39 was good. You could keep up with the traffic, fast traffic pretty well. But this one here does it so much easier, and now that I'm getting a bit older, it's so much easier to drive, and the comfort, wind the windows down and the wind's blowing through. Not that I've got much hair, but it's really fantastic. It's a great little car, and my wife would not let me sell it. She loves it so much. .
Well, I hope that you have really enjoyed this week's episode of Classic Restos. A brief story about Eric Warner, a guy that holds a fantastic automotive heritage. He lives life to the full and, of course, enjoys his classic cars. And as I say at the end of every week's show, no matter where you're watching Classic Restos from, until next week, please ride and drive safe. I'm Fletch, and I thank you very much for watching. You can like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/ClassicRestosTV and watch catch-up episodes at shannons.com.au. Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts, Hare and Forbes Machinery House, and Pace Farm.